Hello and welcome to A Gypsy's Kiss, the vlog. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice.
And I just lost... Sorry about that. I'm Shelley Carney.
I'm still Toby Eunice.
Okay. Hey, do you like my shirt, Toby?
I do like your shirt, but...
Remind you of anything?
It does. It reminds me of a shirt that I used to wear when I was... No?
No.
What is it supposed to remind me of?
Rosie the Riveter, because it's International Women's Day today.
Oh, congratulations.
We're celebrating women at work.
Oh, and here we are working.
Yeah, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
A good day to celebrate. I think
so.
that's reasonable.
Now, some of the ladies took the day off to protest, to let people know, what it's like when you don't have women at work. But I think Rosie the Riveter is one of my great heroes because she's a symbol of the many thousands, hundreds of thousands of women who went to work to support the war effort.
As did my mother.
Indeed.
My mother was a Rosie the Riveter in Los Angeles.
Putting aside everything to go to work to help out the war effort, to keep this country a winner.
Yeah. And she did that, and I think it strengthened her, and I think it made for a better family connection as she came back, and she had that sense of independence and confidence. So I wasn't born yet, so I don't know for certain. But so what are we talking about today?
Today we have 3 special topics. We're talking about survival tips and tools. We're talking about the book, The Thrill of the Chase, a particular thing in there about Flywater. And we're talking about a search tool called GMAP4.
Oh, good. Yeah, those are all good topics for us.
Yeah.
So let's start. What I want to add to the vlog is I've spent time out in the field most of my life, including the time that I spent in the service. But my first solo camping trip was taken when I was about 11 years old. And I was out for 3 days, and back in those days, you could do that, and nobody noticed until you got back. It was like, where have you been? I've been camping for 3 days. And that was my first big adventure. I didn't go too far outside of Santa Fe, up in the hills around Santa Fe. But it was the first time I was out and learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about the field, and have continued learning ever since. One of the things I know about the treasure hunt is that Forrest did put it in a place that's relatively accessible. You can get there by car. But I also believe he didn't put it near the beaten path, which means you're going to have to get off the beaten path. And I think for some of you that haven't been out in the field, what you're going to discover is that it's real easy to find out how not far you go before you realize not only are you not off the beaten path, but you're away from civilization. And so we're going to start adding tips and tricks that I've acquired over the years to help you to make sure that you come back alive and you come back in safe for your family. So,
right. And we talked about this a little bit. And Toby visits the doctor fairly frequently. I, take really good care of myself, and we're both in training. We're both in training for a hike in the Rocky Mountains because it isn't something you just get off your couch and do. It's intense.
Well, like most men my age, I'm like a bear over the winter. I effectively hibernate and I pick up weight. I pick up about 20 pounds, and I slow down my exercise regimen because I like working out outside. That's my excuse, honestly. Mm-hmm. So I've got to spend, as soon as it starts warming up, losing the weight and getting into shape again, because I'm not going to go into the mountains and I'm not going to take anybody with me when I go into the mountains that isn't in shape. That's just not, that just doesn't make sense to me. So one of the things that you have to consider is what kind of shape you're in and whether or not your doctor agrees that it's a good idea for you to be outside the realm of civilization. So those are just some things that we're going to pass on. They seem like common sense, but with hundreds of thousands of searchers out there and more probably going out this spring, it's important to just remind you that this is not a picnic, I guess.
Yeah. Just be prepared.
Yeah.
Like the Boy Scouts say.
So we're going to talk about being prepared today, and we're going to talk about this.
A blue tube.
Well, it's a bear beater. So if you're ever
a bear beater, I don't think that's going to bear much of a bear. Maybe it's a tiny bear.
Fight off a bear, a very small teddy bear exists. Now this is called a life straw, and I've been carrying one since around
Life straw.
Life straw. I've been carrying one since around 2000. They've been around since 2005. They've been around long enough so that there's imitations, right? Mm-hmm. It runs around $15 now. When I first bought them, they were in the $20 to $25 range. But
Where you can get them at like REI or
you can get them. You should be able to get them at any sporting goods store now. That's how common they are. This particular model is a new one because I think I've been used up my old one. They're good for about 1,000 liters, which is about 265 gallons, which is for most people several years worth of drinking water. But not only is it a safety thing, when I'm out in the river, when I go fly fishing, when I go fishing, any kind of fishing, I go out in the water. I put on my waders, armpit high waders, and I go out in the water, and you're out there for a couple of hours and you realize you're thirsty. And one of the nice things about this is you can hang it around your neck. It has some connections here that lets you hang it around your neck, and you can lean over and drink from the river, and that's in the good situation. The bad situation is if you're out in the field and you're there for more than 3 days and you get lost, you will have used up all the water that you've carried with you, unless you've carried 3-gallon jugs with you. And at that point, your body will start deteriorating, and you probably have another day before you die from lack of water. The nice thing about this is you can stick it into literally any nearby water.
fresh water, not salt water. Right?
Not salt water, that's right. It doesn't work with salt water. Any fresh water puddle and drink from it. And it's going to be safe. It isolates you from 99 point, I don't think it's 9 sigma, but it's 999 of all the bad things that occur in water, including E. coli and Giardia. It doesn't protect you from chemicals. So if you're drinking from a swimming pool, the chlorine's going to come through.
But if there was a toxic dump,
heavy metals, heavy metals is not. It's not going to pick up the heavy metals.
Yeah.
And the other thing that it doesn't protect you from is viruses. Now, none of those are going to be found. They're relatively rare out in nature. On the other hand, if you have a partner who's got a cold and they just sneezed into their water bottle,
not going to help.
Not going to help. You're going to
get your own water bottle.
Get your own water bottle. You're going to get the virus and let him die of dehydration.
Yeah, well,
no, that's not polite. I'm sorry.
He should have his own life straw.
Life straw.
They're not that expensive.
It's a small investment in safety, and it's one of the things that you should have in your fanny pack, because it'll fit in your fanny pack when you go out into the field. And we're going to talk about several of these little compact things that you can take with you that will ensure your safety should you get lost at some time in the future. Not that we want you to, not that it's a good idea.
So like the top things
why do these guys always wait until we're actually doing our...
I don't know. I'm going to cover that up. So the top 3 things that you need for survival...
I can't see it.
...include water, shelter, and fire. Am I correct?
They basically count 4 things, right?
Okay.
In order, they are shelter, fire, water, and food.
I was right.
Yeah. You do need some food eventually. After
absolutely.
7 to 10 days, you're going to have to eat something. I cannot.
X.
Oh, I can't see it. Okay.
Damn
you, bite fence. Damn you,
Pay no attention to what's going on behind me.
Okay. So, the order is shelter, fire, water, and food. And those are the 4 areas of survival that you should. And we're going to talk about. This is going to be water. This will keep you going for 1,000 liters or 264 gallons, and basically that's about a year's worth of water for your average human being. So,
and that's
so awesome. I thought what we is
get your water.
Is try it out. So,
what you got there?
It's I call it Cowboy Coffee.
Cowboy Coffee. You know what Cowboy Coffee is? That's when you scoop up some dirt into a mug and then you add some water. They call it Cowboy Coffee.
Oh, that's actually, so this is stuff, and I let it settle overnight, and I'm not going to shake it because I'll have to resettle it. Not that it makes any difference. It wouldn't have to be settled. This is actually dirt that I got from the plants that the landscaper put around the pool.
Oh, well, that's got fertilizer, doesn't it?
It's got loam, it's got fertilizer, it's got everything in it. So,
Yay.
and what we're going
Tasty.
to do is try it out and make sure this works. So one of the things that you want to do when you get your life straw is you want to put it in the water and let the membrane soak up just a little bit of the water to give it to soak it up, to make it moist. And it just has to be there in a couple
Prime
of
the
seconds.
pump.
Yeah, effectively. And then you just suck on this end. And it's probably going to look funny. Once it starts, it's like siphoning gas from your dad's car.
Oh, it comes out really fast?
No. It's about the same as a regular straw.
Okay.
But it takes a little pressure to begin with, and we're going to.
I've never siphoned gas, so
Well, good. That's actually not a good thing
I
to
don't
do.
want to put gas in my mouth. That's gross. Oh, there it goes. Does it taste good?
It has a flavor to it. I would call it someplace between loam and, well, honestly, coffee.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
sounds like an
here, try it out.
Irish song. Me?
Yeah, try it.
That was brown.
No, it's brown. You're
know
going to have
I'm
to use
on
in the
a
field.
special diet. I can't
Yeah,
have
this
dirt.
adds absolutely no calories
There's no
to
dirt
it.
in my diet.
So, and besides, they need your opinion on what it tastes like because mine's going to be completely different. Keep it in the water. Keep it in the water. There we go. What do you think?
Best cowboy coffee I ever had.
Now, they do make, Lifestraw doesn't make another, so this model, once you're done with it, you want to back flush it, they call it.
Oh. Spit it back out. Backwash. Normally you don't backwash into somebody else's jar of cowboy
Right,
coffee.
exactly.
You're trying to get it all over the book. You're getting it on the book. Don't
I'm
get it
getting
on
it
the book.
everywhere.
Yeah.
This is my copy of the book. So, Lifestraw,
Life
they
straw.
do make another model that runs around $40, $45, and it's made of stainless steel, and it has an additional carbon filter cartridge down here that's good for about 100 gallons, and it takes out all the flavors. So if you have any fishy flavors, you can buy the more expensive one. I'm not sure that it's a necessary investment. But I can guarantee you it works. I've used them for several years. The other nice thing about the company, it's from either Sweden, Switzerland, and let me see if they're on here. Vestergaard. They're from Switzerland, and for every purchase that's made, they donate one life straw in a humanitarian effort to provide them to people who don't have clean water, mostly in Africa. So it's actually a good company to do business with because they do world good as well. Life Straw, and that's the first of our topics on, I don't want to call them survival skills, but just, things you should know when you're in the field, things you should have with you when you're in the field.
I think it's good to call
Yeah.
it survival skills because they're the top 4 survival skills.
Yeah.
We just did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
actually, next week we're going to talk about fire.
Yeah, fire. Next.
Yeah. So
So, let's.
where are we on time?
Where are we? We're at about 12 minutes.
Oh, good. We've done 12 minutes, or are we 12
Yeah,
minutes
we
left?
have done 12 minutes.
Oh, wow. It goes by
So
fast.
this is a book called Flywater.
Well-
And why is that special?
Well, it's special because, so when I took my scribbled on version of The Thrill of the Chase, I actually numbered the chapters just for the heck of it because Forrest doesn't do that. He does it in a later book, and I'm not even sure he numbers them, as he just calls them names and gives them page numbers. So I numbered the chapters just because it was easier for me to keep notes. So I could say in chapter 14, Forrest, entitled chapter 14, Flywater, and he talks about his fly fishing experiences as a youth and includes some pictures of his favorite holes and about the Yellowstone.
Fishing holes.
Fishing holes. Yeah, sorry. And at some point he mentions, and I'll read directly from the book real quickly, I pulled a long forgotten book from a shelf. It's called Flywater and is about the great fishing spots in the western part of the country. Several of the wonderful color plates are of plates where I fished as a kid under the tutelage of my father, or where I guided others for pay when I was just a young teen. Later on, he goes to say, the book now occupies a different shelf closer to my view, for it holds some memories most dear and makes me know that moments such as these are fleet of foot indeed, and calls to make them all the more. You can't see me behind the book, can you? Sorry. I just covered up my face with the book. So here's the point of that. The point of that is that anything that has to do with Forrest's father is important. His relationship with his father is probably the strongest thing that you find, honestly, in any of his books, in any of the books related to this subject. So it struck me as important, so I thought it was important to get a copy of Flywater, and I made the mistake a lot of searchers make, and then I ordered Flywater on Amazon, and I got this copy.
That's very nice.
It is very nice. It's a beautiful book. It was this particular copy was written by Grant McClintock, and I'll explain why it's just Grant McClintock. And it has beautiful pictures. It does have some pictures of the area up around the Madison River, et cetera, et cetera. This was published in 2010, and at that point, when I saw the publication date, I realized it wouldn't have made any sense because Forrest wrote The Thrill of the Chase before 2010, so it wouldn't have been on a shelf. It has a mind of its own, doesn't it? Right? Yeah. So it wouldn't have been on a shelf. So I did a little additional research. There was a copy, there was a version of Flywater that was published in 1994, and it was published by two gentlemen at the time. A gentleman whose name is Mike Crockett, along with Grant McClintock, who published the second version. The interesting thing about Mike Crockett is that he also had a bout with cancer, and he survived it. And he survived it and part of the process that helped him to survive it was, he thinks, fly fishing. Now, the reason he's not on the second book is because he later passed away after the 1994 version was written, and Grant McClintock went on his own to publish the second version of the book. So the reason I'm advising you of this is that when you decide, if you decide, and it does have Madison River in it, it has several locations within and about Yellowstone National Park with imagery that you could imagine that Forrest Fenn fished there because he said he had fished there. So it might be worthwhile getting it should you find yourself in that area, just looking at some of these fishing holes to see what Forrest liked about them, because theoretically, at least in my theory, the more you know about the man, the more you know about where the treasure is.
Okay.
That it's not just the poem.
What did you find that was different between the two books?
Well, the second book is larger and thicker. It has more photographs. It has more text. It covers more territory. He divides the chapters are divided by the type of river, the fly fishing river.
Did you find anything missing from the second book that was in the first book?
You know, I haven't gone through that in that level of detail.
Okay.
I noticed that some of the photographs in the first book are in the second book, and it's not a wordy book. It's mostly photographs and photographic captions. But there's a lot of references to the Madison River, to the Yellowstone, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So it's a pretty good, it's a good, if nothing else, it's a great coffee table book. I found this one was easily found. The first, the 2010 edition, was easily found on Amazon. I waited for this on abebooks.com, which is a used book. What do you call it? It's where you gather a bunch of booksellers together in one place. What do they call it?
Distributor?
No. It's what they do with the ACA. A bunch of vendors. It's like the eBay of used books.
Yeah.
This is the way to describe it. And both books, they're now selling for way over what they originally sold for. This copy especially, I had seen in the $200 to $250 range, and I found a guy that said he was selling a used version that was in, quote, good, unquote, shape, and I got it for $50. And for me, it's a good investment, if nothing else, because I like the pictures.
Okay, so our third and final topic today is GMAP 4. So it's a search tool that you enjoy using. So what do you do with it?
GMAP 4 is a mapping tool. It's free. It's got Google Maps in it, but it's also got some other maps in it that Google doesn't have. And its search capabilities are really good. It's one of the best that I've seen. So what I want to do is just, I don't want to give a full lesson here because we don't have the time, but I want to make people aware of it. Let me get out of our little presentation mode here. And the best way to find GMAP4, it's got an address, but just go to your Google search engine page and enter GMAP4. That's G as in golf, MAP4, and you'll see it right here. And it takes you to a main page that looks like it was designed around 91 or 92.
Yeah.
But it works. And most of that is informational. The button that you want to click is right here, Start GMAP4, and display the default map. And the default map, when you display it, is the map of the world. But there's a couple of things I want you to notice right away. And do me a favor and step back just a little bit. Not too far. Right there, that's too far to walk. Right there. Good. So right down here, you're going to see some digital coordinates and labeled cursor and center. And the one that's labeled cursor, you'll note, moves and changes as I move my cursor because the coordinates are changing as I move my cursor. The center one doesn't move, and I don't know whether you can see it on the screen, but right there is the center one. It's got a set of crosshairs, and that's always in the center of your image, and I'll explain to you why that's important in just a second. So over here are the two drop-downs. One is the menu drop-down, and, oops, let me go back. How did I manage to do that? And the other is the terrain, the mapping drop-down. So when I drop down, you can see that we are in T1, the Topo Google Terrain Map, but I have all these other images, the Google Street Map, the aerial Google Satellite, the aerial Google Hybrid, the My Topo USA, which is going to become a valuable tool to you. And there are some other topo maps, but they're no better than, for you guys, the My Topo USA. So let's start with a search, and I'm going to click on the menu, and I'm going to drag down to search. And we're going to search for, let's search for Hebgen Lake, Wyoming. I like to give it as much information as I can, although it doesn't need that. So it's going to take me to Hebgen Lake, and as you should know by now if you're a search fan, Hebgen Lake is the one that Forrest writes a lot about in The Thrill of the Chase. And it highlights it, and you'll now see that it puts it on the center. So now I have the coordinates for Hebgen Lake. And I want to, if that's part of my search, I want to document those coordinates. As I move the map around, the cursor changes, but as I move the map around, the center changes. So if I want...
Clicking and dragging.
Right, just clicking and dragging. If I wanted to find the coordinates for the end or the beginning of Hebgen Lake, I could put it under the center cursor, and I would have those coordinates right down in the lower right-hand corner. So that's why it becomes so important in the grand scheme of things. Now, I'm going to scroll back out just a little bit so you can get right about there, so you can see what it does. And I'm just going to go through the different maps. The aerial Google Hybrid is pretty good, very detailed. And the Topo Google Terrain is the one that we had been looking at, the T1 map, but the T2 map, the My Topo USA, is what anybody who's been out in the field will recognize as your standardized topo map. So it's a very good mapping tool, very capable. One of the features that I especially like about it is I'm going to go back to T1. And if I need to determine distances, one of the nice things about this tool is that I can use the drop-down menu to go to Draw and Save. And I can tell it I want line points. The options are waypoint, line point, and waypoint and line point, both. Line point and waypoint. I start at line point. I say continue. And now what I can do is I can place a marker of where I'm starting. And we're going to start at Quake Lake. And I'm just going to travel my way around Quake Lake. And maybe go up the canyon here. And now what I have down here in this corner is a route I know that is 5.7 miles or 9.2 miles long. so I can start measuring distances in terms of the amount of travel. Last week, when we did that trip along the Madison that Forrest had described in Too Far to Walk, I used this tool to determine that Forrest, bless his heart, was mistaken. It wasn't 10 miles. At the most, it was 6.0 miles, and at the best, 4.8 miles. So his trip wasn't as long as he thought it was, which will happen to old people like us.
And it happens to everybody.
So GMAP 4.
GMAP 4.
Good tool.
Good tool.
I trust it.
And it's free.
And it's free. And in a couple of weeks, when I get some time, I will show you how to use the center point and the various maps to build layers of maps that you can then bring into your Photoshop or Photoshop-like tool and make a more detailed, more helpful map for you as you go out into the field.
So you're not going with tons of road
maps.
maps.
Yeah, and if you go to the topo, I'm going to go back to the topo, you can get to the pretty... as I zoom in on it, I can get down pretty... Ooh, too far. Right.
Too far to scroll.
Too far to scroll. So I can get down to a pretty detailed level on the topo map if I have to.
Gravel pit.
Yeah. That's how I found Horseshoe Mine up in the Cimarron.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. So
questions? I like asking you. Do you have any questions?
Do I have any questions?
Do you want some more?
Sure
do you want some more Cowboy Coffee?
Cowboy Coffee? No, I'll save that for later. I know how much you enjoy it. How about if we tell the folks where to communicate with us if they have any questions?
That's a good thing. Let me just go back to this and open up in the presentation mode so we can see that. Okay. So if you want to contact us on social media and you want to talk to us about our opinions on the matter of Fenn's treasure.
Or ask questions or suggest future topics.
Yeah, I've been doing this. I haven't been doing it since the book was written in 2010, but I have been doing it since 2012, and I thought a lot about it, and I've written a lot about it, so I pretty much have opinions on all of these matters. Now, I can't tell you where the treasure is, and the reason I can't tell you where the treasure is because if I knew where it was, I'd go get it. And I wouldn't waste any time. I don't care how deep the snow would be. I'm still looking for it like everybody else. So you can find us on gypsieskiss.com, which is our blog and where we post everything. For example, this eventually will be posted there. So you'll find our vlog very helpful. We've recently started a vimeo.com page. And the reason is I put our the interview with Forrest at Moby Dickens bookstore that I owned. I finally put it up there on demand, and that's going to help us pay for our searches in the future. And Forrest asked me to tell you that he's not benefiting by that at all. I asked his permission to do it. He gave me permission. He doesn't benefit by it. But it's where you can find it on our Vimeo account, and that's vimeo.com, A Gypsy's Kiss. And then you can also find us on Facebook. We have facebook.com, A Gypsy's Kiss. And we do have a YouTube channel, but YouTube just won't let me give it a name because I don't qualify, because I'm not old enough. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So it has one of those long YouTube, nonsensical, after youtube.com, BLT, little O, etc.
But the name of the channel is?
But the name of the channel is A Gypsy's Kiss, and you can find us by that. Although you will get a lot of listings. Make sure you say it's a channel, because you will also get a lot of references to Deep Purple's A Gypsy's Kiss song, which in my opinion may be, unfortunately, one of the worst songs that was ever written and recorded. It's just...
So anyway, go to the blog or the Facebook page, because those are going to be more populated, and we're going to have more interaction on those pages. Next week, what are we going to talk about next week?
So next week, we're going to talk about fire. Yeah, making fire. Mm-hmm. And we're going to demonstrate the use of a bow. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about making fire.
Fire, yes.
Toby's approach to making fire, which is the lazy man's approach to making fire.
Survival tip number 2,
right.
How to make a fire.
And then we're going to talk
to warm up your Cowboy Coffee.
We're going to talk about Russell Osborne.
Russell Osborne. He probably had Cowboy Coffee, too.
He did. Actually, the only difference between his Cowboy Coffee and my Cowboy Coffee is he stringed it through his scalp, apparently.
Ooh.
And then... And then we're going to talk about the poem. And I think over the next several episodes, we're going to talk more and more about the poem because Forrest has often said everything you need to know about finding this treasure is in the poem. So
Obviously.
we think it's a lot deeper and a lot more metaphysical than a lot of other people believe. So we're going to talk about those things.
Yay. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think so.
So come back next week and see us. And this weekend is my competition, so I'll be done with my training and
exercise.
dieting.
Well, you're not going to be done.
Okay, well.
Right, you're going to just change.
I will.
Tell people what you're eating.
Back.
Tell people what you're eating now, right now.
Oh, so much food.
Yeah.
So much.
And you're still losing weight. That's what's amazing.
8 cups of zucchini.
8 cups of zucchini. 4 cups per 2 meals. 8
And
cups
6 eggs. And this is just my 2 breakfasts.
Right.
And then salmon and broccoli. And then in the evening, I've got 4 cups of green beans and 6 ounces of grilled chicken. Yeah, it's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food. And you're always telling me when I don't feel like I'm losing weight, you're always saying you're not eating enough.
You're not eating enough.
Yeah.
And you're not sleeping enough. And
Well,
that sounds weird, but
that's
it's true.
I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got for this week.
All right, we're going to get in shape. We're going to stay in shape. And we're going to go out and we're going to go hiking. And we're going to take our life straw and we're going to know how to make fire.
Right.
And then
Amongst other things.
in
What
4
else
weeks, we'll know the other 2 things, the shelter and the food.
Yeah. And up there, we got to talk about bears. So eventually we'll talk about bears.
Bears, especially coming
Yeah,
out this time
and I'm
of
not
year.
talking about teddy bears.
No, big nasty bears.
Yeah, big nasty
Kind
bears.
that attack Leonardo DiCaprio.
My favorite scene in the movie. A bear eating Leonardo
It's the only
DiCaprio.
good scene in the whole movie.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us at A Gypsy's Kiss, the vlog. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Thanks for joining us this week. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye-bye.